So you've chosen rowing as the thing that's gonna help you get fit. Yeah! Where do I start? Let's talk about the things that are necessary before you even buy your rowing machine. Let's get into that. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Shane Farmer, and this is Dark Horse, where you build the life that you want to live, and we just happen to use rowing to help you get there. Deciding to pursue a new form of fitness is a huge, big undertaking. You're committing to all sorts of things. Like, I'm gonna start a new fitness routine. I might be eating differently. I might be sleeping differently. I wanna change my life. That's kind of like the statement that we're putting out there. And rowing is a great choice, but there are so many things that we need to think about before we even choose what rowing machine we're gonna buy. Let's talk about it so that you make the absolute best decision for you. So question number one that you should ask before we even get to the decision of what rowing machine to buy is rowing fundamentally interesting enough to you? Maybe you haven't even stopped to think about that, but that's a big question. Do you look at rowing and go, oh, that looks super cool. Something about that excites me, and intrinsically, you're like, yeah, I could get into that. Like, I've seen rowing on the water. I've always thought it looked amazing. I live in the middle of the country. I was in rural Minnesota, surrounded by cornfields. I certainly was not growing up around rowing. I didn't find it until I got to college, and something about it had just called to me when I saw it. I was like, wow, that has always looked cool. I've seen it at the Olympics. I think I would really enjoy giving that a try, and sure enough, I fell in love with it just real fast. And maybe that is calling to you as well. The thing I want to caution you against is making sure you don't get sucked into rowing because you saw it in Men's Health or Women's Health or Esquire or whatever other magazines are talking about it. Make sure you're not just getting sucked in because it's the thing of the day and because some article wrote about it. Make sure that you stop, take just 2 seconds and go, rowing. Huh. Does it seem interesting? And if it does, great, check mark. Let's move on to the next question. Question number 2 you need to sit down and ask yourself is, are you good at following through on things? Be very honest with yourself about this, because it's so easy to start something and to buy something and just put your money down, but you're not truly invested into it. And so before you ever decide to go down this path, and I would advise you on this for whether you're changing your nutrition or buying dumbbells or whatever it is, are you good at following through? And if not, are you going to stop, take a moment and go, yes, I'm doing this for myself, and whatever it takes, I will follow through on this thing. Because the last thing that you want is to buy a rowing machine, then have it collect dust in the corner of your garage because you just don't ever use it. And if it's not an interesting enough sport or movement to you, and you don't follow through once you buy it, well, don't waste your money. Start with walking. That's a perfectly good form of fitness. Start there. And once you get to walking and you're like, you know what? I've been walking for 2 months. I ticked my walking box and I'm ready for something new, and I've shown to myself that I'm committed to this new lifestyle or fitness or what have you. Great. Now I'll plunk down some dollars to actually put a rowing machine into my house, and yeah, I'm committed to it. I'm willing to invest in the education and learning and all the things that come along with the rowing stroke. Number 3, have you done the necessary background work of checking with your doctor, thinking through your medical history? Are you actually cleared to do fitness stuff? If you aren't, well, pump the brakes. Go do this stuff, like check with your doctor, make sure that you're cleared. Check with any PT that you go to. Think about recurring injuries that you've had in the past. Are those going to limit you? If you have bad knees or if you have a bad back and you've dealt with those, are those limiters to the rowing movement? No, you can still row because you have this decreased effect of gravity from sitting on the seat. So things like knees are not going to have as much of an impact. There's no pounding of the leg hitting the ground. For backs, it's actually more stabilizing than it is like loading of the spine. So a lot of people that have previous back injuries do just fine with rowing. I'm not a doctor though, and that's not my scope of practice, but the point is you need to just step back and go, all right, what are my pre-existing conditions that I need to think about before I make the decision to do this? Am I gonna buy a machine and then get it home and go, oh yeah, I slipped L4, L5, S1. You know, those are the kind of things, consider ahead of time, get clearance, make sure that you're in the right place to make the move forward. Got another big one for you. Are you ready to work hard? Just stop, let that settle for a second. Rowing is not easy, and that's the beauty of it. The upside to this machine is that you can make it as easy or as hard as you need it to be. But to truly start to gain a lot of the benefit, you do need to gradually increase intensity on the machine. That means that there's going to be a level of grit or a level of hard work that will come with it. Can you still sweat without working incredibly hard? Yes, believe me, there are still benefits to that. If you've been absolutely sedentary for the last 20 years, you are going to gain benefit from moving. So I'm not saying don't start, but eventually you will need to get to the point where you start to introduce new levels of challenge to yourself, whether you learn to push harder, whether you learn to take your stroke rate higher, that's you work on your power or you work on increasing heart rate. Those things are going to help to move you into the next level of fitness. You can't always stay in this slow, easy, long distance world if you hope to make real progress on your energy systems, on your blood markers, on your weight, on your physique, on body composition. All of those things require that you start to level up as you improve. Make sure that you're happy with that and settled there and you're resolved. Yes, I will get to that point. Maybe right now the super hard work is scary, and that's okay. It's okay to ease yourself into it. I'm not an advocate for like blast yourself on day one and just ride the rocket. You don't do it that way. You need to start comfortably and build and increase your confidence level. Make sure that you've got your mindset and you're ready to put in the work. Ooh, now finally, the fun question. This is what we've been waiting for. But let's talk about what rowing machine you are going to buy. I get this question in the comments nonstop. I don't have a solid answer for you, but I can tell you the things that you should think about as you're starting to make your decision. First and foremost, think about price. Now, I would generally qualify that there are 3 areas of price when it comes to rowing machines. First and foremost, you have the $100 to $400 machine range. Most of these machines can be found on Amazon. Sunny Health, that company name comes to mind. They're proprietors of that low price range rowing machine, of which there are lots to choose from, but that $100 to $400 range, you need to determine price range first and foremost. Can you afford something that's higher than that, or is that where you are? Because that will definitely limit where you start looking. The second price range is around about the $1,000 mark. There are a couple machines that fall in this area. Water Rower, Concept 2, Nordic Track probably has 1 or 2. There are other companies, I'm not listing them all, but the point is you've got some that live in that $1,000 range, give or take $200 on either side of that. So that's range 2. Is that in your budget? Range 3, you're starting to get into the real interesting connected machines, and that's in your $2,000 range, give or take $200 on either end of that. So $1,800 to $2,200. You're gonna find some new machines and those are mostly the newer machines in the market that are gonna be up in that range. And then you have this like elite, like it's out of the screen that you're watching right now, where you're up at the real expensive stuff. Those machines are generally reserved for the rowing community. And unless you really want to get into on-water rowing and you want something that teaches you the real rowing stroke, well, you can forget about those. Don't worry about them. And are they super cool? Yeah, but if you're buying your first car, you don't buy a Ferrari. You buy a 1990 Honda Civic DX that's fire engine red that was once nicknamed Fenry Honda. Get it? I didn't choose that, but that was my first car. Anyways, the point is, think about your price range. That's a good place to start. Number 2, think about your sizing specs. What kind of space do you live in? Are you in an apartment with very thin walls and you can't afford to have a noisy machine? Some would say that the Concept 2 is kind of noisy, but with those noisier machines, you could annoy your neighbors above, below, and to the sides if you're not in a thick walled or thick floored and ceilinged apartment building. Or maybe you have no issues with that, in which case you can still consider it. Maybe you want something that's silent because you have newborn triplets and you're like, not a chance. I'm not even gonna try and do something that makes noise and risk waking those triplets. Those are your options that you can pick from, but you need to think about space and sound and things like that. Your general setup, what's gonna work with what you've got. And here's where the real fun part comes when you're starting to decide on these machines is what kind of tech is important to you. And that ranges from the ability to connect to Bluetooth, some things like a heart rate monitor or even just your phone, all the way up to do you want connected classes in which your machine doesn't take any external tech, it just goes directly into some kind of cloud tracking with instructors included or some beautiful visualization of the data that's coming from the machine. What do you want in that spectrum? Because there are going to be the limitations that come from A, price range, and B, that connectivity piece. And you'll find some sweet spots. Some of these machines integrate more tech pieces while maybe not necessarily building the most robust rowing machine, but they give you more of the tech stuff, and that can be really nice and exciting and hit that sweet spot for you. Or maybe you can go with a less expensive machine that has the ability to connect to something externally, and so you could have an app on your phone that maybe runs with a membership. The crew, listen to the description below, in which you could join an online community that is robust and full of other humans who are doing what you're doing, and you want to be coached and be able to have your technique reviewed with other people, and you have this incredible place to hang out. Check out the crew, the description below. Anyways, the tech piece. Think about that. Also for your consideration on these machines would be your maintenance features. Is this machine so high tech that you're not going to be able to do any of the maintenance yourself? Or is it so low tech that maybe it could easily break and it's not even meant to be worked on? So think about that. Not that there's any one right answer to it. You're going to have a spectrum of decisions that you can make. So take that into consideration as well as you're kind of building this matrix of what am I looking for in price point, noise, size, connectivity, maintenance. All of these factors are important. Maybe you live on the 10th floor of an apartment building that doesn't have an elevator. Is getting the machine to your apartment a big deciding factor? Think about that. Go look at the weight of the machine or the size of the box when it's shipped. That stuff is unique and individual to each of you, and I can't make that decision for you, but things to think through before you make your decision. And as you're gearing up for this decision, you better start paying attention to your technique. And for that, make sure that you check out this playlist of all of the technique pieces that you're gonna need to know so that you get the most out of every workout, and then hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it so that you get alerted when I come out with new videos just for you.